What's going on, everybody? Today, it's Michael here with my brother in arms, Steve. How you doing today, bro?
Good man, how you doing?
Not bad, man. Been probably like what over 10 years, man. Right?
Yep, 10 years.
Yeah. So, how's retirement treating you?
It's good, man. I've been retired for I think was it 8 years this year.
Congratulations, man. So, how about would you go ahead and let everyone know a little bit of backstory on yourself? Maybe what branch of service were you in? Obviously, you're in the Army, but what was your MOS? Why did you join the service, and what'd you like about it?
Uh, I joined the service because I didn't have any money for college.
Same.
Way way back in the 90s. I was an army brat, so army life was normal to me. So when I figured out I didn't have any money for college and to meet the goals I wanted to do, so I signed up after I graduated, went off to basic, and I was a 11 Bravo infantry guy.
Did you think you were gonna do a full stint and retire?
No, no.
What'd you think you were gonna do at first?
I thought that I was going to go. Well, I signed up for 6 years, and then I thought I was going to get out and go to college and become an architect.
Okay.
But uh, like so many young, not very smart 18-year-old infantrymen, I decided to get married after basic training before I went to my first duty station. But I'm still married to my same beautiful wife. I'll be 29 years this year. We've been married.
Hey, congratulations, man. People aren't making it 29 days anymore. So,
That's true.
hey, did you like get married because people were doing it for the BAH and stuff like that? Kind of not all the way, but was that sort of like an incentive for you?
No, like I actually went to high school with her. So
Okay.
I knew her for a couple years before I even joined the army. And then we were together when I joined and when I went to basic training and I came home on leave and said, "Hey, you want to get married?" And she was like, "Yeah." So we did and got married like a couple days later.
Not bad. What did your time in the military go by fast for you, or did it kind of drag out?
The first, I would say probably the first, I don't know, 10 years. My first enlistment, I signed up for 6 years. So um, after that, I was really planning on getting out. And then just the culture of the unit I was in the 29th at Fort Benning, um, which is what, Fort Moore now.
Yeah, I guess I just changed the name of that thing.
I mean, if you're going to rename Fort Benning after anybody, I mean, Hal Moore is a good dude to name it after. That's just my opinion. Like, he's a
Right.
badass, Medal of Honor winner. He's an infantry guy. He went from private to lieutenant general. So, I mean, that's cool with me.
Yeah.
I'll,
No, hey, nothing
I'll,
wrong with that. How'd you end up getting to Germany? Because that's obviously where we met up at. But how'd you end up getting there?
I was here in South Carolina as a drill sergeant at Fort Jackson. And I actually did a third year as a drill, which I don't recommend doing. Uh,
Definitely not when you married either, right?
oh no. And especially after all the deployments and stuff I went through when I was at Fort Polk in the 10th Mountain, and then coming here, coming off of that to be a drill, I thought, it might be a little bit of a break, but it's not a break. All it does is multiply all the issues you already had.
Yeah.
So I got done with my 3 years, and well, I got done with my 2 years, and I was about to come off the trail. I had like probably 6 months left, and you're supposed to get orders like your last 8, 9 months, right? I wasn't on orders, and I had never been to Germany, and we're both from Washington State. Like, she was born and raised there, and I ended up there after my dad got out of the army. And then I was trying to figure out I was checking every day, like, where am I on assignment to? Like, where am I supposed to go next? Like, how am I supposed to plan anything if I don't know where I'm going, right? At the time I had four sons in the house, I'm married, like, I'm trying to figure out what's what. And I always wanted to go to Germany because, I went to Germany with my parents, like when I was young. We were stationed in Bamberg.
Okay.
So I grew up there. Uh, and then, I kept checking and kept checking. And then one day it said I was on assignment, and I was like, okay, but it doesn't say where. So I had to actually call drill sergeant branch, and they were like, oh yeah, you're on orders to Germany. So I was like, sweet. But, I had like not very long to plan to go to Germany. After that, I only had like 5 months, I think, from when I actually got orders.
Was that your last duty station, or did you end up going somewhere after that?
Yeah, that was my last duty station. I decided to retire from there, which I don't recommend retiring from Europe
Hmm.
just because you know,
Go ahead, dive in, man. That's what we're gonna get to. So go ahead, let them know, let them know you take.
yeah. I mean, if you're trying to retire, like come back to the States, come some stateside somewhere and drop your retirement packet as soon as you get there. Like if you're eligible, just do it from the States. Because what happened to me is like, well, I kind of decided to retire like last minute. Like I got to Germany and I was eligible for retirement. Like Condit actually, he was like, "Hey, you're not going to retire, are you?" Like my first week there when I was in the Eagle Troop, and I was like, "I'm staying here for a little bit, man." And so he was like, "All right, cool." I ended up being one of the senior sergeant first classes in the whole like in the regiment because I had so much time in service and time in grade that like there really was only like probably four guys that had anywhere close to me. But when I got there, I wasn't going to retire. And then after the deployments and stuff, I decided that, well, let me back up a little bit. So my wife and kids didn't initially come to Germany with me, which was a mistake. They ended up actually getting there like 2 weeks before we deployed.
Yikes!
Yeah.
Golly.
So I ended up having to go up to Bremerhaven and like go get my wife's car from Bremerhaven and then drive it down. And I shipped it over there to Germany by myself, like on my own dime, which I don't
Why
like.
did it take so long for your family to come to meet up with you in Germany? Was it just lagging on something on orders, or not really, or
It
travel,
was,
or what?
it was a kind of it was a family decision. Um, we decided to not bring the family to Germany to kind of stabilize the family where we were because I had two sons in high school and one son in middle school, and then uh, another one in elementary school. So I wanted to kind of stabilize them, but it ended up not working out. So I was like, you know what, just bring them over. Then got command sponsored, and they ended up coming like 2.5 weeks before, and then got my wife's car, and then like my household goods came like after I was already gone. Like after we were already in Afghanistan, like my household goods came. So my wife,
Uh,
she's a trooper. At that point, she had been an army wife, an infantry wife for like 20 years. So, plus my sons were kind of helping, they're teenagers. Um, so that's, they ended up not coming at first, but they ended up coming anyway after that.
did everybody like it when they came over?
Oh yeah, yeah. Like my wife and a friend of ours she was one of my drill sergeants when I was a senior here. She was actually in Germany in Vilseck. Like so, we already knew her. Um, and then there was another couple that we knew from here that went to our church. And then somebody else that we knew from like Fort Hood that was stationed there too in Vilseck in 2CR.
That's good. So you had a good support, like it's somewhat of a support system for the family, even though you were leaving pretty much as soon as they got on ground.
Right.
So when we went, obviously we went to Afghanistan for our little stint. We came back, and then you were getting ready to obviously, call it your time's up, hang everything up. What did you go through when you were getting ready to get out in Germany? Was it an easy process? Did you have a mentor at the time? Did you have someone pointing you in the right direction, or did you sort of have to figure stuff out by yourself?
Um, So I was actually a non-promotable sergeant first class as a first sergeant. I was the weapons troop first sergeant in 2CR when I decided to retire. So we came back here on emergency leave because my wife's grandmother was terminally ill. So we flew back here on emergency leave for a couple weeks, and then some family stuff happened. And faith is a real big part of my life. So, our pastor actually came to see us, and he was one of my best friends. One of my good friends at the time. Like we were real involved in each other's families, and all that. Because when we started going to that church, like there was less than 100 people in the church, and now there's I think there's 1,500 people to 2,000
Wow.
people every week that go through that come to our church. Like we've moved locations down the road, and like it's giant now. Um, but yeah, like my family was 10% of the population of the church at the time. So
Now you're only 1%.
right, right. Um, but he came over, and we were talking, and he was asking me, what are you going to do? And I was like, yeah, I don't really know. I was weighing my options. Like if I stayed in, because I didn't have Ranger Tab, but I had battle staff, and I had basically been light. I've been mechanized. I've been striker. I've been, had my staff time in Afghanistan actually as a battle NCO in RC South. So, um, I if I stayed, like I'd been looked at for E8 three times, three times. Like I said, I've been in for a while, um, and hadn't got picked up because I didn't, I don't know why. Like, no, I don't think anybody really knows why.
No, not at that point, right?
Right. So I was kind of weighing my options, and I didn't really know. Staying in was safe, I guess. So my pastor, Jimmy, his name's Jimmy, he said, well, it sounds like you're scared. And that's just how he is. Like he sees what it looks like, and he just tells you what he thinks. Uh, so I was like, well, yeah, I guess. I didn't really have a plan. Well, as most people don't, they don't really have a plan when they are going to exit the military. Um, most people, anyway. Some people do, the ones that listen to the guys that already got out, then they start formulating a plan. Those are the guys that have an easier time, I guess. So
Yeah.
that night, we were here, and I couldn't sleep. My wife couldn't sleep, and she's like, "Hey, are you awake?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm awake." Like, what do you think about what he said? And I was like, "Well, I guess we should retire and see what God has for us." Um, you know, using the reasoning behind why you retire as God told me I need to retire and go back and see what I'm supposed to do isn't like a normal answer, right?
Yeah, true.
So I actually had a lot of people that were like, "You all right, man?" Like, God told me to retire? Yeah, man. God told me to retire. So from the time I decided to retire, we got back, and I went and saw the sergeant major. I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna drop my packet tomorrow." He's like, "Okay." We had this long conversation, and he believes that his faith drives how he lives his life, like I do, right? So he he was like, he was cool. He was like, everybody needs to know when their time to go is, because some people don't. Um, so that's what I did. I dropped my packet, and I had the minimum amount of time per regulation. Like 8 months was the minimum time, and this was before like CSP and like the
Taps or something like that, all that stuff that came out with.
like this was well before all that. So I don't recommend retiring from Europe for a couple different reasons. One, your VA stuff and like your medical appointments that you need to do to get pre checked out before VA benefits and all that kind of stuff. it's much more difficult if you're in Europe than if you're in the States. Because if you're in the States, you're doing all the stuff at your station, right? But if you're in Europe, everyone has to go to Ramstein.
So so when you were ready to get out, did you have to make a trip, or did you make trips to Ramstein to get to get like what you're talking about to get those service connected disabilities? Because obviously you've been in for that long, you got something going on, infantry, ground and pound, doing all this stuff. Did you make the trip to Ramstein, or did you not go?
I didn't go.
So
Well, I
when you
went
got out, did you have any military? Did you have any disability?
not when I first retired. No.
That's crazy to me, man. I mean,
Yeah.
just because, like, think about it. I just talked to a sergeant major today, and I'm actually going to have him on tomorrow. And he did 32 years in soft, and he said the same thing that you just touched on. He barely you know, didn't have that guidance or that direction. You're talking about sergeant major. You're talking about yourself. You guys are senior NCOs, and there's no one there to guide you in the right direction and
Nope.
point you when other people are getting out the military, maybe even with 2, 3, 4 years, but they're getting connected before someone like you, which it's not a race. You're not against them. We're all trying to do the same thing and get what we deserve. But it seems like you missed that, or you weren't given that opportunity.
I mean, I was, but I wasn't because I aligned my priorities different. At the time, I'm an infantry guy. Um, I'm a first sergeant of a company or a troop. Like, I couldn't just go and get double knee surgery. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, you
not,
could, but you would feel guilty inside, thinking that you let your soldiers down and you put yourself before them, essentially like that. That it seems like,
right,
right?
right. Because it's about the mission and what the mission is. It doesn't matter, like if I got stuff going on, like how much uh, better for everyone it would have been if I would have just got knee surgery.
Well, what about your mission in life as a husband, and for your for yourself, because you're still on a mission now, right?
Right.
You're still on your own mission, but it's like I mean, even me, I only did 8 years in the army, but when you told to swallow your pride and just move on, and don't say nothing if anything's going on. You don't say nothing. You just say I'm good, and you just keep going, right?
Right. And that's kind of how you're programmed, like you don't complain, you don't get help if you need help. Like, if you're suffering with PTSD or, anxiety and all this other stuff, like, like if you go and get help, that's it. Like you're cast to the wayside. Like you're garbage now. You go over there and, go to sick call and like sit on your butt and do whatever, like you're worthless. Like you can pull staff duty or maybe not. Like your career's over.
Right, right.
That happened to me when I was on the trail too. Like, because when I was in 10th Mountain, like I went in the last 36 months that I was there, because I was at Fort Polk. I was there when 2CR was still at Fort Polk before they went to Washington State and then to Germany. So, like, they were starting a new brigade of 10th Mountain at Fort Polk. When 2CR left, most of those dudes stayed, right? So I was there that whole time. The last 3 years that I was there, the last 36 months, I was deployed to Afghanistan or Iraq for 22 months,
Nonstop.
nonstop. We went to Afghanistan, came back. Went to Afghanistan again, came back. Went to Iraq, came back, went to drill sergeant.
And
Like,
even if you did have something wrong with you, you're going through those SRPs, and you can't tell the provider that you got something wrong because you're not going to be able to go again, right?
no, you're not. No, you're not gonna be able to go again. You're gonna be rear D dealing with all the yahoos that are back there causing trouble. Like, that's the nature of how it is. Like, and anybody who says it's not like that, come on, man.
Seriously. I mean, we don't know what the army's like nowadays. Who knows? But like, you're right, though. I mean, there was probably like less than 10%. I'd probably even say less than that. Like less than like 5% of a unit that would actually like speak up if there was. They're just gonna go through the motions. Everyone. You just following the next person in line. Hey, we got to go do formation. We got SRP. All right, go talk to the provider. Be there for 5 minutes. Get your shots. Get this stuff. You're in and out. You're going. You're on block leave, and then you're on the plane.
Yeah,
So there was really no one. I mean, I don't think it's anyone's fault because, like you said, it's back to programming. Everyone was programmed when you're young in the military just to do this and do that. And you're not really supposed to go against the grain, whether that's to speak up to the provider or whether that's to question your leader, right? You're just told to follow your superiors and do as you're told. That's,
Yep.
you know, I mean, military is not a bad thing. Obviously, you know, we've probably all had great experiences from it, but like, what are some more things that you could talk about now that you either didn't know that you should have done when you were transitioning out the military, or that you like wish you would have known, you know, that now, you know, that you've gone through it all these years after? What's some things that come to mind?
So the big things is, you know, talk to people who have retired already or gotten out, like guys like us that talk about it, like get that information, because, you know, since I've retired and I went through what I went through, everybody that's gotten out of the military that I know or has retired or just gotten out, like I've done everything I can to try to help them out, man. Like with their VA benefits claim, with just letting them know, like, hey, like stuff like when you retire, you exit out the Army, like DFAS is gonna audit your last paycheck. They're gonna hold on to it. They're gonna hold on to it until they get done auditing it. And if they got to audit for 20 some odd years, like it might be a while. Meanwhile, you're like, how come I didn't get paid? I didn't even know they were going to hold on to this last paycheck before your retirement check will even start. Like, no one told me that. No one said, hey,
that's the first time I heard that, honestly, too.
Be prepared. That last paycheck of yours, they're going to hold on to it. I actually had to call DFAS. I was like, what the heck? So I called DFAS and they told me, like, hey, we audit this, whatever. And that's not in any transition briefing anywhere. Or at least it wasn't for the last 8 years.
Right.
Like the last person that I know that retired, he's a full bird colonel, man. Full bird colonel. Did 30 years in the Army. Like got passed up for 1-star. And he's like, all right, I'm retiring. He didn't know that. He didn't get that briefing. He wouldn't have known unless I told him that. And his counterpart, which was also a sergeant major, 30 years in the Army, same thing. Didn't know, had no idea. Condit didn't know. You know,
hidden secrets, man, or something that they got going on. I mean, the agenda's just not put, like you said, it's not put out there. It's not like when you go to ACAP in Germany, they're going to say, hey, we're going to bring in 5 retirees and we're going to let them tell you what it's like to get out the military. Even I got out at Carson, didn't have anyone come in there and spill the beans on what it's going to look like for you to go through. You go get some initials, you know, the main thing. What is the main thing? Clear CIS, obviously, right? Make sure you get your clothing record straight or whatever.
Right.
But I mean, there's no one there really telling you, hey, make sure you go to that stuff. So how long did it take you to get your first set of like disability? And then even how did you even know what to do, because you weren't given that opportunity in Germany to do it? Like, how did that happen?
So fortunately, I have an amazing wife who was scouring the interwebs, like finding all this information, because like most veterans, I was that stubborn, hard-headed dude. Like, I don't need that. I don't need to do that. I don't deserve that. I'm just, you know, whatever. No, dude, you do. You do deserve that. You should go do that, because it's not about you. It's not about how you feel about it. It's about the quality of life that you'll have for your family and for you, that the United States of America owes you. Because you didn't have back pain and knee surgeries and lost cartilage and TBIs and, you know, spinal injuries and neck injuries and arthritis in your hands from carrying a freaking weapon for 20 some years. Like, you didn't have any of that when you were 18 years old, before the Army took you, before the government took you and put you through the ringer. So yeah, they owe you that. Stop convincing yourself you don't, because your wife is probably telling you you do. And your kids will appreciate what happens when you get that VA disability.
Most definitely. Yeah, you're right about that. I mean, it's life changing. We don't all get out the military with $1 million in our pockets. So even, I mean, I started off that I went in increments. I think I went from 0, like you, to 30, 60, 80 to 100. It took me 5 years, but you know, for the most part, if I keep up my end, you know, make sure we go to the VA, we do what we're supposed to do, we're going to get taken care of for the rest of our life, and our kids are going to be able to, you know, go to school, do all this, all these benefits that we could go off and start rambling that they also don't tell us about. They don't tell you what's available after you go across the rainbow and get the pot of gold when you get out the military. They don't even tell you there's a pot of gold out there, you know. But there is for the people that have and that can swallow their pride and just make sure that, you know, when we're in the, like when we were in the service, like if you would have had that appointment at Ramstein, and if I would have went to my appointment, we could have been 100% from day one, but we wouldn't have the story to tell. So I guess it's, you know, hey, I appreciate you helping. You've helped me, you've helped other veterans, you know, and even coming on this call and just like you're doing the same thing I'm doing. I just try to help the people I know, my friends. I love hearing about friends saying, hey, I got 100%, I am 100%, or what do I got to do to get this claim in? Or just people, even if it takes them 5 years, but you just stay on them because you're persistent and you don't want to give up because it's your brother or sister from the military. It's like you're trying to pour into them, but sometimes people just have that problem where they get stuck in the race of, hey, I don't have time because I'm working the 9 to 5 and I got to work 50 hours a week to keep up with the bills. Well, what if you had $3,000 or $4,000 from the VA? Would you still have to work that 9 to 5? Right. But they don't make time to take care of themselves, and it seems like that's a problem with veterans now, and even in Vietnam too. Like it's just like they lose hope in the VA and they just like cancel that out and never even try to go back after it.
Right. I mean, if it were easy, if it were just simple, like going down there and filling out a piece of paper and like doing, you know, going to some appointments, like if it were that easy, everybody would do it.
That's right.
But it's not. And fortunately for me, one of the regional guys that works for the regional VA office is a friend of mine here. Okay. Him and his wife they both work for the VA. And I know like 3 other people that work for VA. So, and you know, the state VA hospital is 15 minutes from my house. So I was fortunate in that I had some people that I could call when my claim got jacked up. So I got out in November. My first day of retirement was November 1st. And I started my claim in December. And then January, I was still working on it, and then it stalled out. And then like most veterans, that first job that I got, I was like, all right, well, if I just show up on time and worry about just my job, and I don't smoke weed, and I don't leave work early, and I don't steal anything, I'm ahead of 90% of the people in the workforce right now.
Yeah, and like you said, you want to go to work. Yeah, you're right.
I mean,
so what happened with the first job?
So I got a job. Some folks that are acquaintances with our church that go to our church. One of them happens to own an auto group, and you know I'm a car guy, and I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll sell cars. So I went to work selling cars, and it was all right. I mean, it was something new, it was something different. So, you know, just like anyone who's been in the military that like has that habit of, okay, I'm going to figure this out to the full extent so I can be the best at it that I can be. That's what I did, right? Meanwhile, I'm realizing that, okay, people are asking me why I show up early. I'm like, literally, I come in the door 5 minutes before I'm supposed to be there. And I've been sitting in my car for like 10 minutes because traffic, right? And I'm drinking my coffee and I'm, you know, reading the news or whatever in my car before I start working, like you would normally do anyway, like in the Army, like, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm just early, right? Because if you're not 10 minutes early, you're late, right?
Most definitely.
And I got, you know, I'm showing up and like the dealership manager, like the sales manager is like, why are you so early every day? I'm like, I'm just here on time, dude. Like, why are you late?
That's what they're used to. They don't have that same standard that they instill like in the military. You know, like you said, if you're not early, you're late. And I mean, once you've done it for that long, you're programmed in to do it for the rest of your life. Probably, it's like, why would you even come late? I mean, that's something that I don't think a lot of civilians actually have um, I don't know, a taste for, because even people I know, they don't care about time. They're not punctual, but you make yourself look stupid at that point. So you probably stood out just by doing that. Like you said, why are you here? They're noticing you're there early, that you're already doing something that no one else is doing. Did you last a long time at the dealership?
So when I first retired, like I decided to like apply for a whole bunch of stuff. I sent my resume to a ton of people. So when I built my resume, I actually built my resume and then like sent it to every single person I knew that had a professional job. And I was like, hey, check my resume out, send me some feedback, I'll adjust it. And I did that with like 25, 30 people. A bunch of people that had gotten out, like a bunch of people that are like, you know, CFOs of companies, like guys that retired, and that was beneficial. Like having a resume that's like well thought out and like, because when you write an evaluation report in the Army or the military in general, it's not worded the way regular normal people in the world will understand it, right?
Seriously, military jargon at its finest, right? And
Yeah,
like, but you were proactive and reached out to your network. Like you didn't get that from ACAP, right? Like you took that
yeah,
upon yourself, say, hey, I got to get with these people that are out here in the workforce to do that. And that's a great idea. That's honestly a great idea, because I didn't do none of that stuff. And I reached out to my uncle, and he tried to help me a little bit. But like you said, you got to reach out to these people because you can't have that jargon on that paper, because whether it's AI or someone scanning your resume, they're going to go right over that, right?
right. Unless you're really like unless you're applying for jobs on like
Like contracting and stuff like that.
USA Jobs, yeah, or
Okay,
USA Jobs for like GS stuff. Like
true.
a USA Jobs resume is like complete. Like it doesn't matter if it's 9 pages long. They want all your stuff on there.
Right.
But like a regular resume for a certain job that you're trying to get, like you're going to tailor that resume to that job. And
Yeah, you're right.
the way you word your stuff is important because you want it to make sense to whoever's reading it, not just to you.
So back to let's go back a little bit. And when you how okay, when you put your first claim in, how many disabilities did you have on, if you don't mind me asking? Did you like do a whole slew of them at once, or did you just like do like one claim? And did you use the intent to file? Did you know about that when you were doing it, or did you not even know?
Dude, I did everything online.
Okay.
So I did all my stuff online. I had my medical records digital. So make sure you do that. Like get a digital copy of your medical records. All you have to do is go to the records room and request a copy, and they'll scan every piece of paper in there. Some of it
Right.
might be upside down, but the physicians don't care. Like they'll flip the screen and look at it. But having a digital copy of your medical records is super important. Having all the x-rays, all the x-ray CDs, MRI CDs, all that kind of stuff. If you have that stuff, make sure you have it. Like if you've gotten any of that stuff. What I did is I had all that stuff ready. I had scanned deployment orders. I had scanned deployment awards. Um, like if you've been awarded a Purple Heart or a Bronze Star or any of that kind of stuff, like Presidential Unit Citation, like one my unit when I was in 10th Mountain our company got our own Presidential Unit Citation. Like not every company that goes to Iraq gets that, and there's a reason why, right? So having all that stuff digitally is important because when you do your claim, I went head to toe from the hair of my head to the soles of my feet. Everything that hurt, that was injured, that was painful, that was limited range of motion, that was all that stuff, wrote it down on a legal pad. And then what I did is I said, okay, this major injury affects these smaller injuries. And you can kind of daisy chain all that stuff together when you do your claim online. Like you can select an injury and you can correlate an injury to that. And then you can also correlate deployment orders to the time frame that injury happened.
And they're going to use that to verify that you were there, and that's too easy to obtain. Like you just said, you just got to make sure you keep copies of everything, and that's no secret in the military. At least it shouldn't be for anybody. But I mean, so you didn't have any VSO. You were just doing it all. Your wife was digging in. You were digging in. You're like, I got to get on this, and you just got to it pretty much.
Yep. And that, I mean, and also the guys that I knew that worked at VA, they're like,
Right.
okay, so this is what we look for. Like, I had guys that that worked for VA that were claims adjusters, basically.
Okay.
So they would take your information, and the way it's worded, like range of motion is a big deal.
True.
If you lose range of motion, like that percentage that you lost range of motion is significant.
Yeah, and what people don't know is when you do go get checked for that compensation and pension exam, it's done a little bit different now because they're outsourced so many different clinics because they're so overwhelmed right at the VA. But the VA is not looking to sign that check for all that money when you get in there. So if you go in there and they ask you how you're doing and you're doing amazing and all this stuff, they're writing all that stuff down. They're putting all these notes in your file. And when it comes time to do the range of motion, say you're going, like I went for my foot, broke my foot, Afghanistan and stuff like that. When they say, hey, like we're gonna measure, right? That's what they do if they're doing range of motion. And if you think you're gonna be Superman that day and go in there and stretch and touch your toes, you just set yourself up for failure. We're not saying go in there and just say you can't bend over at all, but I mean, like you got to know these things before you go in there, and then you come out and say, hey, I didn't get service connected, or hey, I got a 10%, but I can't even move most days. Well, did you go in there and say you were amazing and just try to not swallow your pride and say that everything's great, good to go, or did you go in there and tell them the honest truth? You know what I mean? So,
and it goes back to that mentality we were talking about earlier. Like,
definitely.
If you're hurt, like, and you can bend down and touch your toes, cool. But what they want to know is when you start bending down, at what point does it start hurting? Not if you can bend down through the pain. They want to know at what point it starts hurting, and that's where you need to stop. But they don't tell you that.
They don't.
Because
go ahead.
Everybody would do it.
Oh, everybody would do it. I did it. I did it for my mental health. Like I sold myself short. I got a 50%. I had to go back a couple years later. I got 100 because I didn't swallow my pride, man. But you live and learn. You said you went head to toe. Did you actually do like any mental health claim, like adjustment disorder, PTSD, or any of that with your initial stuff, or you did?
Yeah, like I had PTSD, like very bad. I almost lost my marriage. I was close to committing suicide. Like I got passed up for a position as a first sergeant here at Fort Jackson because I went and got help.
Jeez.
Yep.
That's crazy. That's kind of like
somebody who had 4 months time and grade as a sergeant first class got put in that position instead of me because I went and got help. So yeah, like I had PTSD, anxiety, like I had a bunch of stuff, like dislocated shoulders, like head to toe. Like I just went mental health. I think I had like 7 or 8 appointments. I had my main CSP exam, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is head to toe. They go over everything. And then they schedule you for everything else, like dental, mental health, MRIs, because, even though you got injured and say you did get it documented, like they want to know what it looks like now. So they're going to send you to get x-rays and MRIs and all that stuff again. Right.
Right.
So, in hearing also, like I did all that stuff, man. And so like initially, see, I finished filing my claim in March or April of 2016. And after about 6 weeks, they came back with the initial determination and I had like 80%, right?
Mm-hmm. So,
but I still had like 23 items that were still under review.
Jeez.
Bro, when you totaled up all of my percentages, I had 400 some percent.
Oh my gosh.
Not even kidding.
I believe you.
I had 400 something percent. So like my initial, like, and they back pay you, right?
Yes, sir.
And you're still reviewing that stuff. So they're still reviewing items. And then once they determine the rest of those items, they may ask for more information. So you may get scheduled for more stuff. Like, don't, and one thing you should never do if you're trying to do a VA claim is miss an appointment.
Seriously.
I don't care what you got to do, man, because that back pay, that those thousands of dollars you're going to get from VA is worth more to your family and your quality of life and your situation for the rest of your life than that one day you're going to have to take off. That one day of vacation you're going to have to use maybe, or that one time you got to say, hey man, can you take my shift for me so that I can go to this appointment and I'll take your shift 2 times. Like, you got to do what you got to do in order to make those appointments, because as well as I do, like the VA is so backed up that if you miss an appointment or you have to reschedule, it might be months, man.
Yeah, and you got to start all over again because you missed it. It's not the VA's fault. Then you got to put another intent to file in, and it just like you said, just do it now. Just do it now. I don't know what people are waiting on. Do it
Yeah.
now.
Like there's so many buddies of mine that I went to Afghanistan with, or when I went to Iraq with, or wherever with, that are legit jacked up, that still haven't finished their claim. Like one of my buddies, like we were in 10th Mountain together in Louisiana, and he's from here. Like he lives down the road from me. His whole family lives here. Like, but he still hasn't done his claim. He's like, man, I don't have time to do that. I'm like, bro, you don't understand, man. Like, you don't understand what you're missing out on right now.
It's crazy because COVID actually changed a lot of things too. Because now they're doing a lot of stuff. If you go for mental health, I did telehealth. I don't even have to leave the house.
Yep.
Just get on the computer and sign in. But what do you? I mean, who knows? We can't be in other people's head. We can only assume. But it's just like, what are these people? What are our friends, our fellow veterans, like? What are they thinking? I mean, we can only assume. But it's like, why don't they want to do that? I mean, I have my neighbor. He was an MP for 20 years. I said, you got you 100%, right? He said, no, I got nothing. Like the sergeant major I talked to earlier today, he's 32 years in the Army. He said he had a full bird colonel, did like 30 something years, got nothing.
Yep.
It seems like I thought it was going to be the other way around. Talking to more senior people, I figured some of these guys are going to have mentors, but they might have people that are in longer than them. They're not worried about getting out. They don't even know what it's looking like to get out. But when it's time to get out, you better know what it's going to look like, because it's only going to help you and your family or yourself, whoever you're with. It doesn't hurt to be proactive on this stuff, but it seems like it's just not preached out there, I suppose.
That's true, man. Like there isn't anybody. You know who there is? Us.
Yeah, and your boy Combat Craig, he's on YouTube doing some stuff. But I mean, like, so I'm saying, man, we haven't talked in 10 years, dude. But when I posted that thing on there, you're like, yo, I'll help, and that's what it's all about, because it's not about me. I'm not looking for no gain. You're not looking for no gain, dude. We're 100%, man. Our kids are straight. We're
Yep.
we're good. You know what I mean? We're just looking to help another person. Then that person, this is a domino effect in the right way. But I don't know what we're gonna have to do to help more people. But like what's something that you wish that you would have known when you're in, or like, what if you could talk to your old self or the people in the military, what would you tell them in a nutshell?
Find that guy that's retired, that's a DA civilian that works close to you somewhere. There is one or more somewhere. Pick their brain. Pick their brain. Ask the questions, man. Ask them what you just asked me, because they will tell you. They're not going to go and seek you out, because they're doing their thing, man. Once you get out of the military, that transition isn't just about your VA disability. Isn't just about your quality of life. It's about your identity, right? Your identity changes. How you value yourself changes, because how you value yourself while you're in the military and you're serving is based on how well everyone else values you as a soldier or a Marine or a seaman or an airman or whatever it is. like how you are valued is based on how your superiors value you, right? How useful you are in the service of your country. Well, once you're out of the military, man, what's your value based on after that?
And that's one thing. I mean, even I struggle with that. It's like you try to work these dead end jobs, and you're like, damn, I was just an NCO making stuff happen in the military, in charge of all these soldiers, or in your case, a first sergeant, charge of this whole troop, leading from the front. Now I'm selling call, like what? Like you sort of like you don't really find your purpose. But I feel like both of our purposes, obviously, we're both on here together trying to do the same thing. So I think one of our purposes after the military is just to do what we're doing now and just keep helping people, because there's nothing like serving people that served. You know what I mean? Like less than 1% of the population takes the oath to serve in the military. You know what I mean? So we all try to sacrifice for the greater good, but there's really no one on the other side trying to help take care of us. So hopefully we can start a trend and just keep it going, because I know there's more people out there trying to do the same thing this is. But I know a lot of people don't like to try to help themselves. They'd rather listen to what's going on in the world that's negative than try to find something to better themselves. It's not easy to try to be the best version of yourself every day. Do I do it? I struggle all the time, but I continue to try to get better. We got kids. We're fathers. You're a husband. We're mentors to other people that are our friends in the service. It's like that's what we're charged to do, man. Like you're a first sergeant. We're NCOs for life, whether we like it or not. We're not doing health and welfare or nothing like that, but we sort of are, because you're checking on your friends still, right? That's still health and welfare, but it's like it takes us to do it. So I mean, hey, like I said, I appreciate you. Do you want to add anything else? You got anything else to say? And look forward to keep connecting with you and just grow this thing as much as we can, and see where it takes us, because I feel like the sky's the limit, man. Like why there's millions of veterans out there that can view this content and other content like this and just be able to help themselves and their families, rather than listen to music all day or listen to whatever they listen to, man, Barbie Girls Club, whatever they listen to, you know what I mean? So it's like, we're just trying to make a positive influence, positive change on the world. So I'll leave it to you if you want to add anything.
So the thing I'll add is, don't be distracted. Like being distracted from what's important is the downfall of what's going on in our country and our society right now. Like there's so many distractions from, and diversions of, let me put my tinfoil hat on real quick. But my wife will even tell you, in January or February of 2020, I was like, I've seen this before. Like this is what they're going to do. This is exactly what they're going to do, because we did this to the Taliban, we did it to Al Qaeda, we did it to the Mahdi militia in Iraq. We did the same stuff that they did to us. And she was like, no. And I was upset. I was like, nope, I can already see what's happening. And then she'll tell you, like, yeah, you did say that was going to happen, and it did happen. So don't be distracted by what's going on in the world and culture and all that nonsense. Like, okay, if you're gonna talk about it, be about it. That's all I'll say. If you're gonna talk about it, be about it. So if you're gonna say, hey, I'm gonna be this, then just do it. Being distracted and using that as an excuse isn't gonna fly, man, because your family doesn't care about that. They don't care about your excuse. Like your bank account doesn't care. The livelihood of your children that's irrelevant. Being distracted is irrelevant compared to that.
Seriously, and like no one's gonna come save you or me. It's up to us, man. But it's like there's people like us out there that are trying to guide people in the right direction and give you but we can't go do your claim for you. We can't go show up to the compensation and pension exam for you. We can't serve the rest of the time in the military and make sure you get those appointments done for you. We can only try to inform you, be here if you got questions. So don't hesitate to reach out in the comments or whatever, ask away, man. It's like, we're trying to help as many people as we can. So, hey, Steve, I appreciate you, man. It's been a blessing. I hope to connect with you soon. And until next time, hope y'all have a great one. Take care.
Yeah, for sure, man. If you got any more questions, you want to hit me up, like, hey, you can link my YouTube channel when you post yours if you want.
Too easy, man. Let's do it, dude. The more the merrier, man. Let's get it going. We could do stuff whenever you want to do it, man. There's plenty of topics and stuff that we could talk about and just keep it going, man. So whenever you're ready, I am too.
Yeah, we'll talk, man, for sure.
All right, man. Good talking to you.
Yep.
All right. Happy Memorial Day. Have a good weekend.
Yep. You too, bro.
All right. Thank you, bro.
Yep. Bye.
Later.